Paul, you mentioned Neil deGrasse. We've got Steven, Weinberg. He's a Nobel Prize winner, if I'm not mistaken. And he says that he pointed out that Ghazali rejected science and how the Muslim world went through a decline. Tyson, as you said, he said that Ghazali thought that manipulation of numbers or mathematics is the work of the devil. And so all these kinds of, words are thrown around about Ghazali and how he is the most significant cause for the anti-philosophical, anti-scientific attitude that Muslims represent today. And so this is a huge thing, and it's carried forward by big names in the current landscape. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have a dedicated presentation on this is because just recently Neil deGrasse Tyson's video started circulating again, and I thought it's time that we kind of address this point. I think your desire, or your wish to have this discussed now is very timely. That there's quite a bit going on social media, on Twitter even, and even some atheists are pushing back against this narrative, saying it's just complete rubbish. It's not based on any facts, any reading of Al Ghazali. So it's a very timely intervention, I think, by yourself.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Paul. So moving into the next part of the presentation. So I wanted to highlight two key things here that come out, of these kinds of quotes. One is that Ghazali is responsible, or he firmly denied the natural sciences, and philosophy. And the reason why he did this is because he had a quote unquote spiritual turn in his life. And once he had that spiritual turn, he just rejected everything altogether. And I hope to show that that's definitely not the case. This idea that Ghazali, both of these ideas can be traced back to Oriental narratives. And there's a very, very famous figure who I think initiated this kind of thinking. He's not the first one. You can find many others like him. But Ernst Renan is just one of the most well-known figures that I want to bounce off of. So Ernst Renan was a French scholar, and he was fascinated by Ibn Rushd, Averroes. And he thought Ibn Rushd was like the carrier of the Western philosophical discourse, namely Aristotle and Plato. But the Muslim world rejected Averroes and followed the track of Ghazali. This led the Muslim world to being very anti-philosophical, anti-scientific, which crystallized the decline thesis. Now, this was in the heyday of Orientalism, and we've had several successive works after that show the shortcomings of Orientalism, namely the book by Edward Said. The book that
I do. This is a seminal work. It's a hugely influential, and I do recommend you read it. He was a professor of English literature at Columbia, so he actually writes beautiful English. Often his prose is just sheer pleasure to read, to be honest. But no, there's a serious academic purpose, which is his understanding of Orientalism and his debunking of it, basically, and exposing of how infused the Western tradition, intellectual tradition, has been with these tropes about the Orient and Arabs and Muslims. So I do recommend this book that you've got the picture of on the right there.
Yeah, and part of the Oriental narrative is to show the superiority of the West and the inferiority of the Middle East and the Muslim world. So Muslims had nothing intellectual to offer. Muslims have a very barbaric civilization and other tropes to that effect. Yeah. And it's good to see that in the scholarship, particularly after Edward Said's book, there's been a lot of pushback against this, even in the areas of historical scholarship, which show that Muslims actually did a lot of scientific activities, even way after Ghazali, completely undermining the thesis that there ever was such a thing called scientific decline in the Muslim world. But that's a different conversation altogether.